My neighbors organized a barbecue in their backyard under the clear summer sky. One of those unbearably bright July afternoons where the sun feels like it's cooking your scalp through your hair. The air was sticky, thick with grill smoke and citronella, and everyone was in that too loud, too cheerful summer mood. I stood near the cooler sipping flat Coke, trying to remember the last time I'd slept more than 4 hours in a row. I work night shift at a hospital uptown. It used to be a psychiatric facility in the 40s, I think. Half of it's condemned now, blocked off behind rusted double doors and warning signs no one's bothered to take down. The part I work in is newer, if you can call buzzing fluorescents and walls that smell like bleach new. At least it's quiet, usually. That day at the barbecue, I felt like I was still inside the hospital. The sounds were too sharp, beer bottles clinking, kids screaming like sirens, someone burning meat on the grill. My skin itched with sweat and old adrenaline. I ducked away from the crowd and sat on the side steps, just for a second of silence. That's when Carla, my neighbor's teenage daughter, came up, holding her phone like it had bad news on it. She's a quiet kid, smart, probably too observant for her own good. "Didn't you work last night?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah. Why?" "There was something on the news. Grand Central had a shutdown, like the lights were flickering, and someone passed out in the bathroom or something. They said it was an electrical thing." She shrugged like it wasn't a big deal, but she didn't take her eyes off me. I remember freezing a little, not because of what she said, but because I'd been there the night before in those same public restrooms. I didn't tell her that. I haven't told anyone, but something happened in there that's been worming its way into my brain ever since. And the weirdest part is, it didn't even feel supernatural. It felt clinical, cold, like it had paperwork. It started 4 nights ago, 3:15 a.m. mid-shift. I was walking past Grand Central just to stretch my legs, clear my head. Sometimes I go in, just to walk the tiled corridors when they're nearly empty. There's something strange about it late at night, the way footsteps echo back at you like they're not quite your own. I ducked into the public restrooms. The janitor was mopping near the sinks, and a guy was slumped on the floor in one of the stalls, snoring through his mouth. The lights overhead weren't off, but they flickered in this slow, deliberate way, like someone messing with a dimmer switch. The air smelled like old soap, wet concrete and something metallic. Not blood, but close. I tried to ignore it. While I was washing my hands, I heard it. Through the PA system, faint and grainy, beneath the static of train schedules and distant announcements. A heartbeat. Deep, deliberate, ba-thump, ba-thump. Not fast, not human, just steady. Like a metronome for something bigger than a person. I stood there for a minute, dripping water onto the sink, just listening. The guy in the stall snored again. The janitor was gone. Then I saw it. A slip of yellow paper taped to the mirror, half curling from the steam. Old. Really old. Edges torn, corners rounded like someone had folded and unfolded it 100 times. I peeled it off. It was a patient record. Name smudged out. Date, June 2nd, 1942. Symptoms: chronic insomnia, fatigue, auditory hallucinations, dizziness, compulsive pacing, vivid dreams of surgical procedures. My stomach dropped, because that was me. Every single one of those symptoms. Exactly. I stared at it just standing there, and it suddenly felt like I couldn't breathe right, like the air had thickened around my throat. I shoved it in my pocket and left. When I got back to the hospital, the air inside felt wrong. I couldn't explain it then, and I still can't now. The walls buzzed with that low electrical hum and everything seemed off-angle. Like I was standing in a tilted room but no one else could feel it. I didn't tell anyone about the paper. I worked the rest of my shift like normal, until I went to check vitals around 5. That's when I saw it. There was a file sitting on the desk at the nurse's station, but it wasn't from our current system. The folder was made of that thick paper that smells like old books and basements. The label was typed, not printed. Same smudged name, same date, June 2nd, 1942. Same symptoms. But there was more this time. Handwritten notes at the bottom. Pen scratched hard into the paper, like whoever wrote it did it angry. Treatment incomplete. Nurse non-compliant. Rescheduled for reassessment. Same smudged name, same date. June 2nd, 1942, same symptoms. But there was more this time, handwritten notes at the bottom. Pen scratched hard into the paper, like whoever wrote it did it angry. Treatment incomplete. Nurse non-compliant. Rescheduled for reassessment. As I stood there reading it, the hallway lights behind me flickered, and I saw movement reflected in the window beside the desk. A fast blur, like someone walking behind me too close. I spun around. No one was there, and yet I felt it. Not a presence, not a ghost. I don't believe in that stuff, but I felt watched, observed, like a patient. I didn't sleep after that shift. I tried. Laid on the couch with the blinds drawn and a white noise app on my phone, but I couldn't turn my brain off. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see the paper in that file folder. Not the words, just the impression of them burned into my brain. Nurse non-compliant. What the hell does that mean? I told myself someone was playing a joke, a twisted joke, but maybe one of the residents found the old file and thought they'd screw with the night shift. I wanted to believe that, but the thing is, our records don't go back that far. They can't. Everything before the 70s was supposedly archived or destroyed when the hospital was renovated. And even if someone did manage to find a file from 1942, how would they know about the paper I found in Grand Central? That night I came in early, just so I could get a look at the file again. I needed to see it in the daylight, convince myself it looked newer than I remembered. Maybe it was tea-stained, aged to look old. People do that crap for Halloween decorations. But when I got to the nurse's station, it was gone. No one knew what I was talking about. Janine, who worked the day shift, said there hadn't been anything there when she arrived. I checked the trash, the shred bin, even behind the station in case it fell. Nothing. And that's when I started noticing the sound. It was faint, always faint, but underneath the hum of the fluorescence, there it was. That heartbeat again. Only this time it wasn't through a speaker. It was everywhere. In the walls. In the floor. Like the whole building was breathing through a chest I couldn't see. I kept hearing it throughout the night. Sometimes I'd catch myself tapping my fingers to it. Ba-thump, like my body was syncing up. Around 4 a.m., I went into supply to get new tubing for a patient's IV. I flicked the light on, buzzing, flickering like usual, and stepped in. The room smelled sharp, chemical, but not our usual antiseptic. This was more like something you'd use to preserve something, like formaldehyde, but not quite. And on the center table, laid out in perfect symmetry, were tools, not from this era, not the plastic-wrapped disposable stuff we use now. These were old, metal, surgical scissors with blackened handles, a retractor, a rib spreader, all glinting like they'd just been polished. I backed out of the room and slammed the door. Took me a second to realize I was shaking, not because of the tools, I've seen worse, but because of the precision, the way they were placed, like someone was preparing for a surgery that hadn't been scheduled. I told myself maybe one of the surgical techs had been working on something weird. Maybe they'd left it out as a teaching setup. But deep down I knew no one had been in that room before me. I was the first to open it that shift. The dust in the corner proved that. I went back to the station and sat down. My chest felt tight. I hadn't eaten anything, my hands were cold. That's when the monitor buzzed. Not a code, just an alert. A new patient file had been entered into the system. But here's the thing, no one new had come in. I opened the chart, no name. Just a patient ID 06021942. I stared at it for what felt like a full minute before I clicked. June 2nd, 1942. Symptoms listed again. Same ones, same order. At the bottom, under next of kin, was a single entry, pending assessment. Nurse scheduled. That was it. I closed the chart and stood up, walked away, left the station and went into the stairwell because I needed to breathe. Needed something that didn't hum or flicker or watch me. The stairwell was quiet, concrete, echoey. I sat on the third step and tried to center myself. That's when I heard it. metal clattering somewhere above me. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming down. But when I looked up, the stairwell was empty. The sound kept coming anyway. I didn't wait, I ran. Back at the station, the chart was gone. The system showed no record of it. The tools in supply were gone too. I checked. Everything back in its place, like nothing had been disturbed. I haven't been eating much. Coffee, crackers from the vending machine. I've lost 6 pounds in a week. My hands shake when I try to write vitals down. I'm not sleeping right. Every time I close my eyes, I feel that heartbeat in my bones. Feel a cold hand pressing just under my ribs, like something's checking for a pulse that isn't mine. 3 nights ago, I woke up on my couch and found another chart on my kitchen table, just sitting there like it belonged. Same patient ID, same symptoms, but this time it was signed. Nurse, my full name. Status, pre-op. I burned it, or tried to, but the edges didn't catch right. It curled, smoked, but didn't blacken like paper should. I threw it in the trash half-burned and ran cold water over it until the ink bled into the sink like something alive. And the next morning, it was gone.